you're on your own. You know, just don't even dial 911 because nobody's going to answer.
Shipping containers tossed like toys, boats crashing together.
Anything that's not latched down is going to be a projectile.
Buildings and trees ripped apart. This communications tower snapped. Hundreds now homeless.
Don't be fooled by the blue sky and the calm waters behind me. You see all of the boats moored and tied up, but what they are expecting here is epic proportions, and it is not only this Category 4 high near Category 5 wind, but also the storm surge, expecting as much as 10 to 15, maybe more of feet of water rising. Obviously a catastrophic event, not only for the residents here who could be isolated, the officials say for days, if not weeks.
Take a look at Irma now. Can't hardly miss it. I mean, it's about 500 miles wide. And the eye itself, 40 miles across, and it's around that eye where you really can see with our GOES satellite imagery that ring of fire, the deep set convection just circulating around it.
Your area is bracing for the worst. I mean, southern Florida obviously is going to get slammed. What are you telling your people tonight?
Well, Julie, exactly what you all were just talking about in the last 2 or 3 minutes. The biggest concern I have is the storm surge.
And one of the most troubling things about this hurricane is that right now, some of the most populated areas of South Florida and here in Miami, it's expected will be on the wrong side, the most damaging side of this hurricane. So we are watching it very closely, obviously. And overnight, 2 a.m., our phones all went off here with official hurricane warnings now in place for Miami and South Florida. Now, overnight, we're getting word of catastrophic damage coming in from Turks and Caicos. That was the real concern there as well, being on the wrong side of the hurricane churning as we wait for more images there. There's also new images coming in from the U.S. military now involved in the Caribbean. New images of U.S. Navy sailors actually helping the critically injured, bringing them to St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands for treatment. New pictures from St. Martin, just devastation as far as the eye can see. That island could be hit again, unfortunately, by Hurricane Jose, which is next in the pipeline.
At least 14 now dead in the storm zone, including 16-year-old Xander Venezia, drowning in rough surf off the Barbados coast. Irma's death toll expected to rise and scores more injured.
Coast Guard teams like this one have been flying in and out of the Virgin Islands, rescuing people.
Our cameramen on one of those choppers, capturing scenes of destruction as Irma moved across the Caribbean. We met Canadian college student Alex Demore, badly hurt in a fall in St. Thomas, airlifted to Puerto Rico for treatment. We lent her our phone so she could call her family.
Mama?
She and American student Maddie Gortat leaving the island with one pair of flip-flops between them and little else.
We think this will be one that'll bring a tremendous amount of water up through from the ocean, out in front, being pushed by the wind. And if it happens to come ashore during our high tide, this starts our seasonal high tide season. So with the seasonal high tide combined with a storm surge, combined with an eastern wind, you guys have accurately described what could happen.
I mean, the storm surge, the high tide, catastrophic.
Storm surge is basically water piling up along the shore ahead of and inside the hurricane. In the center of the hurricane, as pressure falls, water levels rise, all the water piling up while it's still over the open ocean water. As the hurricane closes in on land, the strong winds push that water toward the coast. It has nowhere left to go but up and inland, sometimes as high as 20 feet. Now, say you're inside a home at the coast. This is what it may look like. The water approaching quickly and viciously, entering your home and climbing up the walls. In Sandy, homes filled with water quickly reaching 8 to 9 feet inside the house. And when storm surge combines with high tide, the rapid rise in water can be devastating. Some may think it's the high winds, but storm surge is actually the greatest threat to life and property from a hurricane.
Hotels destroyed, an estimated 6,000 Americans actually still stuck there. I talked to the Prime Minister of Barbuda overnight, who said more than 90% of that island simply destroyed. Hotels, buildings gone. And he told me the effort there today is to simply get everyone on that island off, to evacuate the entire island before Jose hits again. For late details on Turks and Caicos and reports of calls from Americans who are there back home to their families, let's turn to ABC's James Longman. He's live with us this morning from Nassau. James, good morning.
Good morning, David. These tiny islands are dealing with one of the biggest hurricanes they've ever seen. And no matter what the preparations, this monster storm is causing huge damage. The latest to be swallowed by Irma. Overnight, Turks and Caicos devastated. A small island home to nearly 35,000 people, battered with rolling blackouts, shredded rooftops and flooded streets.
But we have seen nothing but worse in the last hour and a half.
165-mile-per-hour winds ravaging this hotel.
The thought of needing a life jacket is not the most comforting thing.
Tourists barricading doors, even hunkering down in bathrooms.
We made 2 bunkers, one in here, one in here.
It's only getting worse.
Using anything to keep out of danger. Colorado native Kelsey Priests broke down in tears after speaking to her family back home as Irma loomed over the island.
And then all of a sudden you're calling to say goodbye in case you don't have a chance to.
This morning, islands across the Caribbean dealing with the aftermath of the now 600-mile-wide storm. Look at the level of devastation in St. Martin. Homes leveled. These shipping containers tossed, boats slamming together like toys. In Barbuda, which has been completely decimated by Irma, volunteers evacuating stranded islanders by private yacht.
I'm Miguel Almaguer at Miami International Airport, where thousands of flights are canceled, lines are long, and patience is running short. This is the mass scramble to get away, but not everyone can afford to get out.
I had a ticket for $700 and then I refreshed it and it was gone.
With all major airlines suspending service in South Florida Friday night, tonight it's social media that's taking off. Complaints of price gouging, $10,000 for 3 tickets from Miami to New York.
People are not trying to go on vacation, people are trying to survive.
Some airlines are capping fares as low as $99, but it's nearly impossible to find a seat. These newlyweds just married this morning.
We're just trying to get out of here.
Are tonight desperate to get home to Dallas before the storm hits.
We really haven't been able to enjoy everything the way that we wanted to because we've been so stressed.
With the overcrowded airport tweeting MIA is not a shelter, tonight the crunch is on both by air and by sea. The 2 busiest cruise ports in the world are affected. 40,000 passengers impacted by the storm.
The cruise lines that are supposed to be docking here on Saturday are not. They're coming in early, dropping off their passengers.
Tonight, we found passengers frustrated right back at the airport, many with nowhere to turn and no easy way to get home.
We're just at their mercy at the moment.
Tonight, a different kind of storm has already arrived at airports like this. More than 4,000 flights arriving at airports impacted by Irma have already been canceled. Here at Miami, this line stretches for several city blocks. Many people have been waiting here for several hours. And Lester, for those thinking about getting a rental car, that could be even more difficult. Lester?
All right, Miguel Almaguer tonight. Thanks very much. Al Roker is here with us in Miami. Al, I keep looking at this beautiful scenery thinking, no way.
Yeah, well, this will be a lot different in about 48 hours, Lester. This is a monster storm, and it is not weakening very much. In fact, still a Category 5 storm. Let's show you what we've got right now. 40 miles. It is 40 miles south of Grand Turk Island. 175-mile-per-hour winds moving west-northwest at 16. All right, so next up, Turks and Caicos tonight, 175-mile-per-hour winds. The Bahamas tomorrow, 150-mile-per-hour winds with storm surges up to 20 feet. And then we move on into Saturday, late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. South Florida gets it up to 130-mile-per-hour winds, a storm surge of 5 to 10 feet, and 8 to 16 inches of rain. The storm surge is one of the things that kills the most people and causes the most problems. With this strong wind pushing water toward the shoreline, it has nowhere to go. It builds up and rushes inland. And Lester, because this storm is so huge, we could actually see simultaneous storm surges on both coasts of Florida.